your upcoming book. It's very interesting. You said certain surrender over doubt, and it kind of captures how we latch onto a feeling of certainty, even if it's a false comfort. And you say that can backfire spectacularly. And we saw how companies and governments, doubling down on false certainties and getting blindsided and so on. So if predicting everything isn't possible, which I think people would admit, what's the alternative? How should we approach the future where there is so much unpredictability?
So first of all, I think the important thing is don't be paralyzed by it. Don't think that at some point certainty will arrive, so you can't do anything in the meantime. I think there are a couple of things. One is thinking of, okay, what are the possible plausible scenarios and how prepared are we for those? That's one option. And of course, scenario planning is a creative exercise designed to reveal or discover multiple options for multiple scenarios. So it's about being prepared with lots of different responses so that when the moment comes, you're mentally prepared and you know which one to choose. I think another is what I think of a call cathedral thinking, which is being exceedingly long-term, which is to say we don't know exactly how we're going to do this. So if you take the great Gothic cathedrals of Europe, for example, they didn't have architects. When the first stone was laid, they didn't know what it would look like. But we have faith that as we go along building it, we will learn how to do it. And, so I call CERN, the Center for Nuclear Physics, is a cathedral project. Nobody, when they started building it in the 1950s, nobody said, well, in around the year 2010, we're going to have a Large Hadron Collider. They thought this institution is going to develop as the science unfolds. They have a planning process that allows that to happen, in the same way as the Sanger Center for Genetics has a budgeting process that allows them the flex so that as technology sometimes develops faster than they expect, they can jump on that and move faster in certain areas of research than they would ever have imagined. So they build a degree of looseness into the planning. That means if things move faster, we can spend more, and if things are slower, we're not in trouble. So this is very different from the typical kind of budgeting process, which is super, super tight and which has very, very little room for responsiveness or retrenchment. So it's very it's long-term thinking, but it isn't an absence of planning. And the other thing, is very much around experiments, which is in any organization. I promise you, if you ask the workforce, there are all sorts of things that don't work very well. Zero in on those and do some experiments to figure out how could we do them better, right? And, there are many stories like that in Uncharted. I mean, one being a huge hospital system in Texas, which just they just made a bet in a way that if they could build a hospital without waiting rooms, because everybody hates waiting rooms, it would mean that patients were less stressed. Less stressed, they'd make better decisions. Better decisions would lead to better outcomes. And they thought if you can get to a better outcome faster, I'll bet it's cheaper. And that is exactly what they proved. But here's the thing. There's no way to know. There's no way to get that certainty without doing the experiment.